let's talk about side hustling. I've done my fair share of side hustling. And the reason why I like side hustling is that there's an associated freedom that comes with not having to rely on an employer for a paycheck. And even though I don't consider myself an expert in any one side hustle, I do have the knowledge that I can sustain my current standard of living with just side hustle alone. So I never have to rely on another person for a paycheck, and I never have to work at a job that I don't like. So today I'm going to talk about 6 side hustles, and I'm not just going to give you a brief description of each side hustle. I'm going to actually go into detail and give you tips on what it takes to be successful in each side hustle. So before we get started, I am new to YouTube, so give me a like to show your support. My channel covers all things money. It covers investing, personal finance, financial education, and side hustles. So if those things are of interest to you, subscribe below. So let's get started. This is the beginner's guide to the 6 best side hustles. There is a surprising amount of skill when it comes to driving Uber, which is a good thing because it gives you the ability to make more than your competitors if you have a skill edge. So what are the minimal requirements that are needed to drive for Uber? So first off, you need a clean car with 4 doors, and it has to have no damage. The second thing is that you need to live in the right area. So you have to either live in an urban area or near an urban area, or you have to live in an area that's nearby nightlife activities, meaning bars or clubs. So if you want to drive for Uber, there are a lot of benefits in doing so. First, there are virtually no startup costs. There's also almost no risk of losing money. And if you're the type of person that likes to talk to people, it can also be pretty fun. So what does it take to be a successful Uber driver? Let me go over some of my tips. Tip number 1 is drive the right car. When you drive for Uber, your 2 largest expenses are going to be depreciation and gas. So what you want to do is you want to drive a car that is cheap and is fuel efficient. So this would mean a car something like a older model Toyota Corolla or an older model Toyota Prius. And Uber allows you to drive a car that is as old as 15 years old if you live in California. Even though I wouldn't go as extreme as that, I wouldn't drive a car that is newer than 3 years old if you want to drive for Uber. Another reason why you want to drive a cheap compact car is because of rider demand. So 90% of all rides are either going to be for Uber X or Uber Pool. So if you have a large car that you want to use to drive for Uber XL, or you have a luxury car that you want to drive for Select, what's going to end up happening is that you're going to either have to wait a very long time for your higher paying customers, or you're going to have to bite the bullet and drive mostly for Uber X and Uber Pool. And this is just not worth it if you have an expensive car. And the last reason why you want to drive a small compact car is that you're incentivized from a tax perspective to do so. In 2020, the IRS allows you to write off 57.5 cents per business mile driven. This means that you're allowed to write off 57.5 cents for every mile that you drive for Uber. It doesn't matter if you drive a Corolla or if you drive an Escalade, it's still 57.5 cents. So it's just a smart thing to do to drive a small compact car from a tax perspective. Tip number 2 is to use your destination filters. A destination filter gives you the ability to put in an address, and Uber will try to match you with riders that are headed towards that direction. For example, if you have a long commute, you can literally get paid to commute by using your destination filters. And if you are driving outside of your commuting hours, you can use destination filters to get you towards a high traffic area, or you can use a destination filter to find your last riders that are headed towards the direction of your home. Tip number 3 is learn to time the surge. A surge occurs when there is a high demand of riders and a low supply of drivers. So what Uber will do is they will pay drivers more in order to pick up riders in a surging area. The idea here is to place yourself in a surging area before the surge occurs. So, for example, if you live near a concert venue, you want to try to place yourself at the concert venue right after the concert ends. If you live near a sports arena, you want to try to place yourself at the sports arena right after the game ends. And every market is different, but in general, Urban areas tend to surge during the weekdays between during commuting hours. So in the morning between 5 and 8 a.m. and in the evening between 5 and 8 p.m. And during the weekends, the bar areas tend to surge right when the bars close. So in California, the bars close at 2 a.m. So the bars tend to surge at around 2 to 2:30 a.m. When timing the surge, don't be afraid to turn off your app and reposition yourself a short distance in order to better take advantage of the surge. And if you know exactly when and where a surge is about to happen, don't be afraid to turn off your app and just wait for like 10 to 15 minutes so that you could turn back on your app and get a surge rider. Also, if you see an unexpected surge area on your map, it's usually not a good idea to chase the surge, meaning it's usually not a good idea to drive towards that area in order as an attempt to pick up a surge rider. Because most of the time, once you drive there, the surge will end and you'll end up burning miles in order to just to get a regular rider. Tip number 4 is don't drive during non-peak hours. Just like how driving during the surge is about trying to drive when there is high rider demand, you want to not drive when there is low rider demand. So this means not driving during the weekdays, during the afternoons, or don't drive during the weekdays after 8 p.m. Weekend afternoons are usually okay, not great, but you don't want to drive after 3 a.m. after the bar scene ends during the weekends. Even if you start in the city where there is always demand during a non-peak hour, what's going to end up happening is that you will eventually end up in an area of low demand during non-peak hours. And you're going to be sitting in your car for a very long time waiting for your next customer, which is very frustrating and very demotivating. So what you want to do is you want to set a destination filter home before the start of the non-peak hours. That's pretty much it when it comes to driving for Uber. The main things is to drive the right car, to use your destination filters, and to learn to manipulate supply and demand by learning to time the surge and not driving during non-peak hours. I'm calling this eBay, but what I really mean is just buying and selling stuff. I prefer retail stuff. And the requirements here are very low. All you need is an internet connection and a credit card. A little bit of cash will help, but it's not a requirement. There's a lot of benefit in using eBay as a side hustle. And if you use my methods, there's virtually no startup costs and there's almost no risk. And eBay also has the added benefit of being able to declutter our living space. So we all have like a phone that we don't use that's just sitting in a drawer, or we have things around the house that we don't use that's just taking up space. So we can get rid of these things and make money while doing so. And these are my tips for being successful on eBay. Tip number 1 is to find products to sell. And what you should do is you should start off with where you live and see if you can find anything that you're not using that you don't mind selling. Some suggestions are you can sell books, you can sell an old cell phone, or just anything around the house that you're not using. And after that, you can ask your friends and family if they have anything that they want to sell. You can either work out a split with them, or you can just do it as a favor to them, because in the beginning, you need reviews from the marketplace anyway. The more reviews you get, the more trusted you get in the eyes of the marketplace. Another place you can find things to sell is on bargain deal websites. And the websites that I use are bensbargains.com and slickdeals.net. And if you browse these websites every day, you'll probably find something that you could sell once every couple of weeks or so. And if you don't want to look at these websites every day, what you can do is you can wait for Black Friday or Cyber Monday, when it's pretty much guaranteed that you'll be able to find something to buy and sell for a profit. Another place to find things to sell on eBay is on Craigslist. And Craigslist is a great way to find people that are willing to part with their items for some fast cash. And if you're there to provide cash for them at the right time, many times they're willing to part with their items at below market value. When buying off of Craigslist, instead of browsing the website for things that you want to buy, I found it more effective to create your own posting listing the items that you're looking to buy. That way people can contact you and you'll be the first person that they talk to. And because you're the first person, you're more likely to close a deal with them. Tip number 2, understand how much something is worth. Before you pull the trigger on purchasing an item to sell, what you need to do is understand how much something is worth. So in order to do this, you can use eBay in order to figure out how much something is worth. So go to ebay.com and in the search box, search for the item that you're looking to buy. Then on the left-hand side, you'll see some search filters. Scroll down to the bottom where you see the sold items search filter. Click on that checkbox, and then eBay will display new results that show the sold price for the item that you searched for. After you get a good idea of how much something sells for, the next thing you need to do is calculate your fees and your shipping costs. eBay and PayPal take a percentage of your sales as a fee, and if you combine eBay and PayPal fees, it's typically around 15%. After you get some transactions under your belt, you'll get a better idea of how much something costs to ship. Something small like a phone or smaller will cost somewhere between $1 and like $5 or $6 to ship. Something larger like a camera will cost something like $7 to $12 to ship. And anything larger like a laptop will cost something somewhere between like $15 and $25 to ship. Anything super big, larger than that, will cost $25 plus. After you figure out these three things, the potential sell price, the fees, and the shipping costs, you can now calculate your potential profit. So the way that you do this is that you take the sell price minus what you potentially want to buy it for, minus the fees, and then minus the shipping. So for example, if you want to purchase something for $50 and you think you could sell it for $100 and you want to calculate what your potential profit is, the first thing you do is you calculate the fees. So 15% of $100 is $15. The next thing you calculate the shipping cost. So let's say that you estimate the shipping cost for this item is $5. So now you can take the selling price $100 minus the purchase price $50 minus the fees $15 minus the estimated shipping costs $5, and you end up with a $30 potential profit. If you deem that the potential profit is worth your time, then purchase the item. And if it's not, then don't. Tip number 3 is sell your item as quickly as possible and for top dollar. The benefit of buying items from a retail outlet is that typically you have 30 days or more to sell your item, or you have the option to go back to the retailer and return your item for your money back. By using this strategy, you totally eliminate your risk, which is why I say that you basically don't need any startup costs to start selling on eBay. But in order to make the strategy work, you want to list your item as quickly as possible so you have the most opportunities to sell your item as quickly as possible. You also want to ship your items as quickly as possible. eBay keeps track of how quickly you ship your items, and any future listings that you have with eBay will tell your prospective customers when they should expect their items. So the quicker you ship, the better your future listings will look. If you have multiple quantities of one item, give yourself the maximum opportunity to sell your item quickly by listing it on multiple platforms like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. And if you list on Craigslist, I would also put that you're open to barters. Sometimes you get a better deal for your item by trading it for something of greater value. So to recap, find products to sell by using bargain deal websites and Craigslist. Figure out how much something is worth by using the sold items filter. Then calculate your fees and your shipping costs so you can calculate your potential profit. List and ship your items as quickly as possible. And if you have multiple quantities of one item, list them on multiple platforms. We've been doing Airbnb for about 2 years now, and even though the income is up and down, on a bad month, we would still make at least as much as we would get with a regular renter. And on a good month, we would make up to 2 times more than we would get with a regular renter. And I can make even more if we were willing to put in more work into it. And I'll talk about that later. Even though I recommend that you own the place that you rent out through Airbnb, that is technically not a requirement. If you're a renter and you have a spare room, you can rent out your spare room. Or if you have somewhere else to stay, like your parents' house or a friend's couch, you can rent out your entire place. There are going to be some startup costs, and that's going to depend on whether or not you own the place, you rent the place, if you have the required furniture or amenities. Airbnb is a pretty easy way to make money, and there's a surprising amount of demand. The demand is going to depend on where you live, and even though I live in Southern California, I don't live in a high tourist area. I would say about 75% of the people that book my Airbnb book it because they're here to visit family members, and I just happen to have an Airbnb that is close by to where the family members live. Airbnb also doesn't take a lot of time. It will take a little bit more time than a regular rental, but it's just a couple hours a week, and that's pretty manageable for most people. So let me get into some tips on what it's going to take for you to be successful as an Airbnb host. Tip number one is to start off your Airbnb as a house hack. What I mean by house hack is that you own a property that is either a duplex where you rent out that second unit as an Airbnb, or you have a single family house with a back unit where you rent out the back unit as an Airbnb. This is going to be, in the long run, the most cost-efficient way to have an Airbnb, and it's going to give you the most control over your Airbnb. By living within the property, your Airbnb is going to be easier to clean and easier to manage. Also, by living on the property, the law is on your side. There's a lot of cities that ban Airbnbs from operating, but they usually give an exception to any hosts that are living within a property and renting out a spare unit. Also, by owning your Airbnb, you don't have to deal with a landlord that can increase your rent every year or just choose not to renew your lease at the end of the lease term. Tip number two is attract long-term Airbnb rentals. A long-term Airbnb renter is going to be just as easy to manage as a regular non-Airbnb tenant, but it's going to be much more profitable. And the way that you attract a long-term Airbnb rental is that you need to have three things. They need to have a place to cook, they need a place to store their groceries, and they need a place to wash their clothes. And these three things have to be all private. So they need a dedicated cooktop, a dedicated freezer, refrigerator, and they need a dedicated washer dryer. Tip number three is to get professional photographs. We took a long time to finally bite the bullet and get professional pictures, and we only recently got it, so let me show you the difference here. As you'll see, it makes a huge difference, and not only will you be able to get a better price per night on your listing, but also more people will click on your listing, which will ultimately give you a better ranking on the search results. Tip number four is to set a 24-hour buffer between guest stays. So like I said in the beginning, I could make more money on Airbnb if I was willing to put in more work. But the 24-hour buffer is a tool that you can use to manage stress versus profitability. You could hire somebody to clean for you in the event that you're not there to clean yourself, but there's a couple of issues with that. Number one is that you are putting the cleanliness of the unit in somebody else's hands, so you can't personally guarantee the cleanliness yourself. And number two, it's quite expensive to hire someone. I would be surprised that if you can hire somebody for less than the price that it would cost for a one night stay. And tip number five is to offer self check-in. So just make your life easier by offering self check-in so that you don't have to be there when your guest checks in. You can do this a couple ways. You can get a lockbox and you can give the combination of that lockbox to your guests before they arrive. You can get a combination lock that will open if your guest puts in a combination, or you can do what we do. We have an August lock with the August keypad, and the benefit of doing this is that each guest can have a different combination with a set expiration time, and also no guest will have access to a key, so they can never make a copy of your key. I still would have a regular lockbox on site for emergency purposes in the rare instance that your August keypad or August lock doesn't work. All right, so that's it for Airbnb. So just to recap, tip one is to start off as a house hack. Tip two is to attract long-term Airbnb renters. Tip three is to take professional photographs. Tip four is to give yourself a 24-hour buffer between guest stays. And tip five is to offer self check-in. Even though you can't use your credit card points to pay for your mortgage or pay for your rent, if you are planning to travel within the next 3 years or so, you can have enough time to build up credit card points to essentially travel for free. And there aren't that many requirements when it comes to starting credit card churning. The first requirement is that you can't have any credit card debt. So you have to start with zero credit card debt. And the second thing is that you need to have some credit established. So you should start with at least a credit score of 680 or higher. And if you have a credit score that is below 680, what you can do is you can go to your bank and talk to a banker and have them apply for a credit card for you. What they can do is they can write a letter to their credit department telling them that you are looking to build credit. Some of the benefits of credit card churning is that there isn't that much work that goes into credit card churning. And the little amount of work that you put into it can yield a lot of credit card points. You don't necessarily have to use those credit card points towards travel, but if you do use it towards travel, you can get a lot of value for the points that you spend. So let's get into my tips for successful credit card churning. Tip number 1 is to plan ahead. Give yourself at least 1 year to plan ahead for a trip. You need enough time to accumulate enough credit card points and then use those points in order to book travel. Tip number 2 is to fulfill the minimum spend bonuses one at a time. And the majority of your points will come from sign-up bonuses. And what a sign-up bonus is when a credit card company gives you some type of one-time promotional value in the form of points for spending a certain amount of dollars within a set amount of time. I would recommend that you sign up for one credit card at a time and hit your minimum spend bonus before you sign up for your next credit card. You could technically sign up for multiple credit cards at a time and hit all the minimum spends at the same time, but that just adds complexity and you don't want to lose track of your minimum spends and lose the sign up bonus. If you're having trouble hitting minimum spend bonuses, what you can do is you can use your credit card to buy gift cards in order to hit your minimum spend. Additionally, you can use a service called Plastiq. I'll put a link in the description below where you can use that service to pay for your rent or even pay for your mortgage. I've never personally had any difficulty hitting my minimum spend. One thing that you can do is that if you have any side hustles, this is also a really good way to leverage your side hustles, because if you have any expenses related to your side hustles, like Airbnb, for example, you can use your credit card to purchase things for your Airbnb, which will help you hit your minimum spend bonuses. Tip number 3 is don't be afraid of yearly fees. Some of the best credit cards have yearly fees, but their benefits that those credit cards provide usually outweigh the cost of the yearly fee. And some of the biggest sign-up bonuses are linked to credit cards with yearly fees. But those sign-up bonuses usually pay for the cost of a yearly fee many times over. Also, many times a credit card company will have many credit cards within their portfolio. So a lot of times a credit card company will allow you to downgrade to another credit card within their portfolio that doesn't have a yearly fee. It's also not the end of the world to cancel a credit card. A lot of people will tell you to not cancel a credit card because it will hurt your credit rating. And even though this is true, the hit to your credit is going to be minimal. And it's going to be temporary, especially if you haven't had a credit card open for a very long time. However, you do run the risk of having the credit card company claw back the bonus points, the sign-up bonus that they gave you. So the best way to cancel a credit card is to wait until after 12 months when the second yearly fee hits, and then call the company to cancel the credit card. Usually what they will do is they will at least prorate the yearly fee, or they will just refund the yearly fee altogether. Tip number 4 is to open your credit cards in the right order. And before I talk about this, I need to talk about the Chase ecosystem of credit cards. So Chase basically has a family of credit cards where if you have multiple credit cards within that family, you can get a lot of benefits that stack on top of each other. For example, you can transfer your points between credit cards and you get more value for the points that you transfer if you transfer it to certain credit cards. Also, there's some credit cards that offer more cashback or more points per dollar spent if you use one credit card over the other. And those points basically all pool together into one universal bucket of points that you can use towards travel. So the reason why I bring this up is because Chase has a rule called the 524 rule, where if you open up more than 5 credit cards within the last 24 months, Chase will deny your application if you open up any credit cards, if you try to apply for any credit cards within the Chase family. So it's really important that you open up credit cards from Chase first before you start applying for other credit cards. And if you want to learn more about this, you could follow a channel called AskSebby. I'll put a link in the description below where you can learn a lot more about credit card churning. So the first 3 credit cards you want to get are the Chase Freedom card, the Chase Freedom Unlimited card, and the Chase Sapphire Reserve card. You can open any of those 3 credit cards in any order, but if you have a lower credit score, you could probably only qualify for the Chase Freedom card first. So after you successfully open those 3 credit cards, the next credit card you want to get is any credit card that Chase offers for an airline. So the airline credit cards that Chase offers are from Southwest, from United, and from British Airways. After you get an airline card, the next card you want to get is a hotel card that Chase offers. Chase offers credit cards from Marriott, from IHG or Intercontinental Hotel Group, and from Hyatt. So after you sign up for those 5 credit cards, you are essentially locked out from any other Chase credit cards unless you don't sign up for any more credit cards in the next 2 years. So the next card that I would recommend after those 5 cards is the American Express Platinum card. And you don't want to just sign up for the American Express Platinum card through their website. You want to sign up with their 100,000 point sign up bonus. And a lot of times after you get your Chase Sapphire Reserve card, American Express will send you a mailer with the promotion code that you can sign up for their 100K point sign up bonus. And if you don't get a mailer, what you can do is you can go on a website called thepointsguy.com/card match. So I'll put a link to the description below, but if you go on that website, you can check to see if you qualify for the 100,000 American Express Platinum sign up bonus. So I did the math, and if you sign up for those 6 credit cards, you would get a cumulative value, point value of about $4,200. And I don't think it would take more than 15 hours to sign up for those 6 credit cards. So if you take $4,200 and you divide by 15 hours, you would essentially be making $280 an hour. So if you make less than $280 an hour and you plan to travel within the next 3 years or so, then I think it's pretty important that you sign up for these credit cards. And for my last tip, tip number 5 is to recruit a player 2. So if you have a significant other that you'll be traveling with, you can recruit her or him as a player 2, and you can basically double your points when you travel. So both of you can travel for free. And there are some other benefits to recruiting a player 2 as well. So the first one is that you get extra points to refer your player 2. So sometimes you'll get referral bonuses when you refer a player 2. And also, if you use your points to pay for hotel rooms, you only need to use 1 person points to pay for the hotel room, but you can both use that hotel room. So basically, you're kind of not only doubling your points, you're doubling it and then a little bit more. So that's credit card churning. Quick recap. So tip number 1 is to plan ahead. Tip number 2 is fulfill your minimum spend bonuses one at a time. Tip number 3 is to don't be afraid of yearly fees. Tip number 4 is to sign up for your credit cards in the right order. And tip number 5 is to recruit a player 2. All right, so I'm going to be breaking up this video topic into 2 parts because the next two side hustles that I have are going to be somewhat controversial. So in order to keep this video clean, I'm going to be talking about the next two side hustles in the next video. But if you enjoyed this video topic so far, give this video a like to show your support. And my channel covers all things money. It covers side hustling, personal finance, financial education, and investing. So if any of those topics are of interest to you, subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.